Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
The following quote from Richard Halverson, and it's really, really true. The times demand big men. Not men who are big shots, but men who are big in heart and mind. Great men, large-souled men. Very true. Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America, followed by a patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance on a Monday. Good morning. And a good morning to you and yours. I'm Zeb Bell, and good morning as we start a brand new week. Welcome to Zeb at the Ranch. I am Zeb Bell with the Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you as our major sponsor. Thank you very much. And also some of our great advertisers like Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, let's go to the phone line and start the week off right with the Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Well, good morning, sir.
Hey, buddy.
How are you?
I am fine. Go ahead, please.
Yes, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
You sound chipper wheels. Good job, and I appreciate it. Right now, let's get ready for the weather forecast brought to everybody by K&R Rental at 256 South, 600 west of Hebron. Roger was on the program with us about a week ago. Did an outstanding job of talking about K&R Rental. And they've got all the tools, they got all the equipment to finish that construction project that you've got going on, or whatever the case might be. And if you're not sure what you need, just go in and tell them what you're doing. They can help. K&R Rental. Number to call, 678-3122, right there on the Burley-Paul Highway. Right now, here's the weather.
First day of the work week, and we are in a winter weather advisory. Good Monday morning. Here is your weather forecast for us up at the ranch. We are expecting about an 80% chance of snow showers. That's supposed to be kicking off at about 8 o'clock this morning. This winter weather advisory is in effect till about 11 o'clock this morning. Snow before 2 is what they're calling for. Then a chance of rain or snow later on this afternoon and this evening. High of 37. Winds out of the south 10 to 18 miles an hour. Gusts possible as high as 24 miles an hour. Total daytime snow accumulations of less than 1 inch possible. For tonight, mostly cloudy skies. Low of about 26. Still going to be a little bit breezy out there. For tomorrow, partly sunny skies. High of 40. Mostly cloudy and 29 for tomorrow night. By Wednesday, partly sunny skies with a high of 43. However, for Wednesday night, we do have a slight chance of rain or snow showers in the forecast before midnight and then clearing out after midnight. That is your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Oh, my. Wintertime in the Magic Valley. We enjoy. Thank you, Gina. And the weather brought to you by K&R Rental at 256 South, 600 west of Hebron. As I said, they've got all the tools and equipment that you need to get the job done. Absolutely. All the tools and equipment. If you need to know more, please check them out online or give them a call, 678-3122. Good morning. Good morning to each and every one of you, and thank you for tuning in. And we've got a great program today. We're going to have the cookie giveaway at 8:30. Frosty Woolridge is on talking about DACA and also the absolute stupidity of having a government shutdown. And then at 9:30, Michael Dougherty, and he's going to be on talking about cameras and microphones in your bedroom. At 10:06, we got Micah Harris coming on talking about a brand new book, Only Small Things Are Good. And then at 10:32, by popular demand of a lot of you folks out in the audience, Lisa Linois, and she's going to be back on. She's the executive director of Wind Action, and she is absolutely tremendous against the idiocy of all the money that we're spending on these wind turbines. So don't miss a minute of it. Don't forget that Daryl's Cleaners, located at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley, by golly, they can clean anything. You know, I want to stress the fact that if you don't have time because of your many, many jobs and hours to do the washing for your clothes, just take it into Daryl's. They'll wash, dry, fold, and iron all your clothes right there for you at 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. You bet they are the best. They've stood the test, and I'll guarantee you, we've been going in there for years and years and years. Daryl's Cleaners in Burley. You stop in and see them today. Want to also mention quickly about our friends over at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Number to call, 678-0459. Now, they're open at 7:30 in the morning till 5, Monday through Friday. And it's not brag, it's a fact. They have all your heating, cooling, and electrical needs, and the knowledge and the experience with well over half a century in business to help and serve you. Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Really good folks. I'm getting a little fuzz on the line there, Wheels. Does it sound all right, or what's going on over there? Wheels? Yes, you have your headset on. You could hear me.
Yes. We sound great over here. I will be watching the line, but if it breaks up or anything like that, then I'll pop on and I'll let you know.
All right. It sounds like a little microwave or something going off. Anyway, thank you very much. Calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I want to hit through a couple of smaller items here real quick. The Screen Actors Guild Awards last night, the SAG Awards, another pot shot at not only Donald Trump, not only conservatives, not only Republicans, but also the denigration of our First Lady, Melania Trump. And it just seems like if you give a gathering of these so-called Hollywood elites, these so-called actors, so-called singers and entertainers, they are absolutely going to spend the whole night just absolutely denigrating and, like I said, taking pot shots at this administration. I am fed up with this low-life attitude of the liberal left. That's my commentary on them. The Super Bowl is set for February 4th, and it's going to be the Philadelphia Eagles against the New England Patriots. Really blew my theory. I honestly thought it was going to be the Minnesota Vikings against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And the way the Jaguars started out the game, honestly, it looked like they were going to whoop Tom Brady and the Patriots, and it didn't turn out so good. Brady brought them back, and they won. And then you talk about a first-class thumping, a real first-class thumping of the Eagles over the Minnesota Vikings. It's kind of a sad deal to some extent. Minnesota Vikings, they were the only team this year, to my knowledge, and what I've heard from other people, they were the only team that never had a player take a knee or sit down during our national anthem. And I was kind of pulling for the Vikings. I know that's going to come as a shock to a lot of people because they're the arch rival to Green Bay. But, you know, they've just not had the best of luck going to the Super Bowls or being in the Super Bowls, and I was kind of pulling for them a little bit. Caller, I'll be right there. Don't go away. Denny's Restaurant, we're going to be over there this week. My goodness, for Lunch Bunch on Thursday, and hope you can join us at 11:30 on Thursday. Denny's Restaurant, you can stop in all the time, anytime at 611 North Overland in Burley. America's Diner. Oh, the food. Oh, the great menu choices. Services. Oh, the nice people serving you, and also at 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. But be with us on Thursday for Lunch Bunch at Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner, 611 North Overland in Burley. Caller, good morning to you.
Yes, good morning, Zeb.
How are you, Tony?
Snow there.
Yeah, it is snowing here.
We got a little bit down here.
Uh-huh.
You know, when I hear about Schumer pushing for DACA, and I hope Trump doesn't cave into this, the first thing that comes to my mind is Costa Rica.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if we're not careful and we keep bringing these people in, this country's going to look just like it.
You know, Tony, I don't care who is offended. I tell the truth. This day 3 of the shutdown by the Democrats, which it is, Chuck Schumer and his little band of mafiosos, and they're to blame. They are absolutely to blame because they are, in my opinion, I don't know if you agree with me or not, but they are absolutely putting illegal aliens, they're putting their favor in illegal aliens and illegality over taxpayers in this country that are legal citizens and footing the bill.
Well, you're absolutely right there. Schumer has a personal hatred against Trump because Trump showed this guy how to run a country. And Schumer doesn't care how much damage he does to people like you and myself, just as long as he can bring down Trump any way possible.
Well, yeah,
this is what's behind it.
I agree with you, and I'm really getting upset that common sense has not prevailed. I don't care if it's the DACAs, the Dreamers, these kids supposedly. Oh, these poor kids, they got to be sent back to their native country. I don't care. Their parents broke the law, and they're here illegally. And I don't want a mom and dad, 17 kids, aunt and uncle in one family, all staying here, living here, and basically being a cost to our country. It's about high time that we started recognizing and abiding by the law, Tony.
Well, I was raised in a city that's been taken over, so I know what's happening.
You know,
I'm not going to give out the name of the city.
Well, okay, but
I see it happening right here in Twin Falls.
I agree. Tony, let me ask you something. You know, it's ridiculous for the news media and even our local Times News or anybody else to paint the picture that these DACA kids, these dreamers, are all A-plus students, are all contributing to society. They're all going to be rocket scientists. That is a absolute falsehood. Many of their numbers are in gang-related problems, have had trouble with the law, and quite frankly need to be sent back to anywhere but staying here in the country.
Well, we're going to spend years and years and years trying to teach these people the English language and then starting them off in kindergarten and keeping them on welfare until they're 18 or 20 years old. Is this what the future is?
Yeah. Yeah, I've just had it. I think right now, and I'm going to comment on this in just a moment, it's time to pull the rug out from underneath the Democrats in any way, shape, or form. Tony, you and Mary, God bless you. Be careful out there. If you're going outside, don't slip in the snow.
Oh, yeah, we will. Thank you.
All right, buddy. Thank you. I'm going to tell everybody what I think the Republicans should do today to stop this government shutdown. And I'm going to be very blunt. Dino's Septic Service in Rupert. Oh, my goodness. Rain or snow, shine or clouds. When you have trouble with your septic tank and you need it pumped, or your sewer and sink drain lines need cleaned, liquid waste removal, caller, I'll be right there. Don't you hang up. I'll be right there. You better call our friends, Dino Septic Service. They recently purchased Dennis Dockstetter's pumping service. Boy, they're big, and better to serve you. Fast, fair, friendly service, and they've got that big old truck that says, Smells Cargo, on the way to serve you. Dino Septic Service, you get a hold of them today. Also, real quick, caller, stay there. I'll be there with you in a minute. Pomerell Place. Living at home and the risks that seniors face can be devastating, and very dangerous. It's not only staying at home alone with the isolation and just loneliness in the pit of your stomach. It's also the safety hazards and the injuries that might occur when you're living alone and you're not eating properly and you're maybe missing your medication. Stop right there. Contact Pomerell Place, a place for senior living at 1301 Bennett Street in Burley. The number to call, 677-8212. I'll repeat that number again, 677-8212. Pomerell Place in Burley. Caller, good morning to you.
Good morning, Jeff. The thing about the two parts of this. First is, excuse my naivete about this, but I thought when the Republicans controlled the House and the Senate and the presidency, we pretty much get the chance to put forth what we would like to see happen and the policies that the Republicans would like to see happen, and so on and so forth. The other thing is, when they did the shutdown, they're supposedly not paying the military or the veterans or people who actually earned it, but by golly, they'll sure keep the people on the dole open and free to get their welfare checks or whatever else. And if I'm mistaken in any way, please correct.
No, you're not, and you're not being naive. Let me just say this, and I got a little feedback wheels at the station, please. That right now it's just showing to me that the government and the Democrats, they don't care about our military that is serving overseas. They're staying in the foxholes. They're staying out in the desert. They're standing there at attention all night long, watching and preserving honesty and integrity. They don't care about them, but they'd rather support illegal aliens in this country. I'm going to point the finger at the Democrats. I'm going to point my finger at Chuck Schumer. I'm going to point the finger at his mob and mafiosos that are absolutely doing the wrong thing.
I don't disagree with you at all. It's surprising to me how they can say full-faced, bold lies of how they love our military and how much they honor and respect them, but yet their actions show so much different.
I know.
Way much more different. If they were actually believed what they said, this wouldn't have happened, and we wouldn't have the problems here of our veterans and our military men, or excuse me for the veterans, but our military personnel making pennies, almost less than minimum wages in some instances, when they're the ones out there risking their neck.
That's right.
And the ones that are getting the money put in their pocket and getting big and fat and full are the ones back in Washington, D.C. who have no idea what it's like to look down the barrel of another person's gun. No idea.
There you go, Riley. That was very good. That was very aptly put. Thank you so much for your call this morning. I appreciate it.
Have a good day.
Thank you. He said it all. He said it all. You know, the Democrats and Chuck Schumer, this weekend I heard some people say, well, you're really anti-Democrat. No, I'm not, if they develop some common sense. This does not have to happen. There was not a shutdown that had to happen. And it needs to stop now. Some of the Republican, I really take my hat off to some of these guys. There's a young representative from Virginia that is donating his daily salary as being a United States representative. He's donating that, starting from day one of the shutdown 3 days ago, to the military. And boy, when you hear that, it just makes you feel good, doesn't it? And by the way, he's a Republican. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. I'm going to ask you to just hold fire for a minute. I'll be right there. Promise. I've got to get this in. Don't forget Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, making you feel good all over again. 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. And the number to call, make an appointment so they can help you, 678-1191. Nick Greenwell and all the physical therapists there to serve you. And boy, serve is the key word with all the exercises. The hydrotherapy pool, the only one of its type around. I've been in that thing and walked 1,000,000 miles, believe me. Helped me a lot. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, waiting to help and serve you at 678-1191. Caller, good morning. How are you?
I'm fine, sir. And yourself?
I'm very, very upset this morning that we have a country that is more serving to illegal aliens and lawlessness than it is you and I, the taxpayers. And I think if anybody can tell me I'm wrong on that, they're living in the land of Oz.
Well, these Democrats, I've seen a poster the other day, and I thought, how fitting. DACA stands for Democrats Against America's Citizens.
That's not too bad.
Citizens of America. That's
Yeah.
Democrats against the citizens of America. So, but they flip-flop like a fish out of water. You remember in 2013 where Schumer was calling the shutdown? It said it's ridiculous, it's divisive, and it's terrible for the country.
Well, let's go back a little bit further, my dear friend Doug. Let's go back to Bill Clinton and Bill's denigration at a State of the Union message about illegal aliens coming into this country and also anti-government shutdown. Oh, and let us also proceed forward to former President Obama saying the same thing. So your flip-flop is not just a shoot away to the beach, it goes well with the Democratic Party.
It does. They flip-flop. My take on this, and I agree with a lot of people over the weekend, their commentaries on it, is they did this on the anniversary of his inauguration.
Yep.
To stick a stick in President Trump's eye. And that's the only reason.
Okay, let's just be honest, and let's not beat around the bush, and let's not just start a dance around the totem pole here. The fact is, the Democrats are so absolutely taken aback with the better success on the economy, the better success against ISIS, the better success that we've got going now for our troops and our military, and more of a secure America, and they're using everything they can to denigrate Trump, and you hit it right on his first-year anniversary.
Exactly. It wasn't up till the middle of March. But, no, they did it right on the anniversary.
Yep.
So he could not go to Mar-a-Lago and celebrate with his first anniversary.
Let me tell you what they should do today, and I don't give a rip if this really offends some people. I think, and I'm going to tell Crapo this tomorrow, he's going to be on the program, Senator Mike Crapo, that they've got the option. They've got the option of using the nuclear option of going back and just blasting the Democrats with that 51-vote rule, remember? Well, I'll tell you something, it should be employed and not step around but step over the Democrats in the way.
Exactly. They're letting the inmates run the prison.
The crybabies.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, the crybabies.
And you know the difference between a liberal and a puppy?
I've got one of my own analogies, but I'm hesitant to say it on the radio.
A puppy grows up and quits whining.
Oh, yours was much better and cleaner than mine.
No, and then have you heard the deal with the FBI lost 5 months of messages?
Yeah, it's such a sad thing, and I just absolutely feel so terrible that the FBI, under scrutiny, and, what happened? Well, we've had some technological errors and omissions, and it just happened to be with information that was very necessary. Why, we're just so amazed that this happened.
Exactly. Let you or I try that with the FBI.
Oh, don't.
See how far that would go.
Yeah.
Heads need to roll. There's the deal coming out from what I've understood, and I've listened to several people, that Dan Bongino, he is up on top of it. So is that Carter, what's her name? Sarah Carter?
Sarah Carter.
Yes. They are on top of what's going on here. And I feel that we need to contact our congressmen and our senators and say, make this public. Do not redact any names.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's going to be very forceful and dynamic to Mike tomorrow, United States Senator Mike Crapo. You know, when I'm never blunt, I'm never very appeasing. I'm always very blunt with him. And we're going to talk about DACA. We're going to talk about why we're kowtowing to the Democrats. And he, as a United States Senator, I want direct answers. Because you know what? If Mike and everybody else back in the Senate, and you know this is true, I don't care if it's a senator from Maryland, I don't care if it's a senator from Mississippi or California, if they banded together and really showed some power, they could absolutely sit the Democrats in a chair in the corner and tell them to suck their thumb because they're not getting anything else done.
Yeah, and the reason the Democrats, my feeling is, the reason the Democrats are resisting so much is because if they let President Trump, carry out his agenda and do what he wants to do, this country will see a boom like we've never seen before.
Well, we're already seeing it, though, Doug. Wait a minute. Pardon my intrusion on your verbiage, but we're already seeing it in our lifetime. You and I have never, and it's never happened, seen the Dow go to over 26,000. People are investing business money into bigger businesses and hiring more employees. There's an optimism that Democrats can't stand.
Well, that's just it. They've had 8 years to do what they wanted to do. And the Republicans back there just basically handed them the keys to the city.
Yeah.
Now, all this resistance against President Trump, and look what he's accomplished. Could you imagine if he had the Republicans in the House and the Senate behind him trying to push his agenda and just walking over the Democrats? The Democrats wouldn't win another election for probably 50 years.
Well, now you bring up a point right there that I was going to discuss. I've got to get my contest out of the way, and I got to give away some cookies and everything. So, man, either call back in a few minutes with the other calls. I'm just going to have to do that, Doug. I got to run.
Okay. If I don't call back, let's take care of our senior centers.
Absolutely.
Let's show them some respect.
Amen. Amen. Got to run. Hey, I'm sorry I'm so late. Sophie's Chatterbox, 530 East Street in Rupert. We're going to give away right now a dozen delicious cookies to Sophie's Chatterbox. Oh, my goodness sakes. They've got a great restaurant and a phenomenal bakery, and they're now making wedding cakes. And I've seen pictures of these beautiful wedding cakes. Wow. And I know they taste just as good as they look. I'll tell you what, get a hold of them today. Sophie's Chatterbox. 530 East Street in Rupert, right on the square. Here's the call. I should say the question for the callers to call in. First-time winners only. This is such an easy one this morning. On the TV series MASH, the character name of the head nurse. On the TV series MASH, the character name of the head nurse. Call in now, right this second, at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587, and give me a call to win the cookies. Quickly! Give me a call, 436-2244. I'll repeat the question one more time. On the TV series MASH, the character name of the head nurse. And caller, good morning, you're on the air. What was the character name?
Margaret Houlihan.
Pardon me?
Margaret Houlihan.
I'm going to give it to you, but you didn't say the full name. It was Margaret O'Houlihan, but I'm going to give it to you. And what you already won the cookies, but what was her nickname?
Hot Lips.
Attaboy. Margaret O'Houlihan, better known as Hot Lips. And what's your name?
This is Art.
Oh, wait a minute. Do you realize there are probably 17.5 million Arts right in the Northwest? Now, what's your last name?
Smith, Johnny.
Art Smith?
Johnny. Johnny,
Oh, for heaven's sakes, I didn't recognize your voice this morning. Have you ever won the cookies before?
Nope, never have.
Well, you have now, and I urge you to get the non-frosted sugar cookies, and then you have to share them with me.
You come on over.
Okay.
We'll eat them together.
Art, God bless you, man. Thanks.
It's Thank you.
All right, take care. Oh, good man right there. I didn't recognize his voice, for heaven's sakes. Oh, Sophie's Chatterbox on the square in Rupert, 530 East Street. Thank you very much. Art Smith. I did not recognize his voice. He's sang many, many times where I've been at, does a great job. By the way, the urgent cares, don't forget them. Oh, they're trying to save you money on your health care. And they offer a plan with no premium that can help you manage high deductibles. And the urgent cares, located, of course, at Riverview Urgent Care in Burley at 382 North Overland. Urgent Care of Jerome, 133 West Avenue A in Jerome. And Urgent Care of Twin Falls, 2392 Addison Avenue East in Twin. Lacerations, sprains, strains, fractures, care for the whole family, drug screening for businesses, DOT physicals, and so much more at the Urgent Cares. I urge you to stop in and see them today, if necessary, and they can help you save money on your health care. Urgent Cares of Burley, Jerome, and Twin Falls. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Okay, ladies in the audience, ladies, if you want to go ahead and get really upset at me, I don't think many will here in this conservative area, but for those that are not conservative and lean liberal or democratic, you can go ahead and try to knock my socks off however you want. I don't care. The Right to Life March was held last Friday, and I had a couple of representatives on my program in advocacy of the Right to Life March, of which I absolutely I admire these ladies, and I think it was fantastic what they do. The next day, on Saturday, was the so-called Women's March, which rode basically, I think, on the coattails of the Right to Life March. Now, what was interesting, and I'm going to break this down, and if you have anything you want to say, just feel free to jump in. The media, being very perverted left and liberal, gave 3 times more coverage to the Women's March on Saturday than they did the Right to Life March on Friday. And the Saturday march, including the one in Twin Falls, was nothing more than a ridiculous show of leftist liberalism, and it just absolutely was for all, I think, the bad things in our society. Lower moral values, and a complete push of feminism. Now, okay, ladies, I've kind of laid it on the line here a little bit. I believe in gentlemanly attributes for our young men and men of all ages. Open the door for ladies, show respect. I absolutely agree in equal pay to all people, whether it is a man or a woman, for the same job. I just absolutely think that we need to treat each other with respect. And the feminist movement, with the Women's March for Solidarity on Saturday, I think absolutely denigrates the male-female relationship and the furthering of that relationship. And I'd like to hear from some of the ladies out there in the audience. I absolutely would like to hear. And by the way, you're welcome. If you disagree, give me a call. I'd like to hear from you. This feminist march and the Me Too revolution, if you will, and the attitude of, oh, we're out to help education, health, veterans, refugees, immigration, sexual orientation, transgenderism. Oh, come on. You're not going to further anything with the attitudes that I heard and listened to over the weekend. And primarily the big push, when they were interviewed and a microphone was stuck in front of their faces, was to lambaste and damn this administration and President Trump. What are your thoughts on this? Come on, don't weaken. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Don't weaken on these issues. Give me your opinion on this. And don't be cowards. Call. While I'm waiting, I want to also mention that Berry Equipment and Rental. Hello, Eli and Juan and everybody else. Sales, service, and parts. And they've got 3 locations. 159 West Highway 30 in Burley, 465 Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, and Nampa. They've got a great, great big store up there at Nampa. And their slogan is, we don't just do our best, we do yours. Absolutely, with all the equipment to get the job done right. Like the Bobcats. They've got a whole corral full of Bobcats at every location, and they've got all the shapes and the sizes, new and used excavators, so stop in and check it out. And don't forget, they provide a special deal, negative interest on all Bobcats. That means the interest on a machine is subtracted from the price. Whoa, save money at Berry Equipment and Rental. And, of course, Twin Falls, Nampa, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. Really good people. Your turn. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I absolutely think the feminist movement in this country is out to destroy, like I said a moment ago, a man and a woman society. Destroy families and destroy the value of both genders so that we respect each other. And I think that's what we're losing. Some of the comments that I heard over the television and radio regarding the Women's March on Saturday were very leftist and very anti-government, anti-men, and many of the concerns, they say, are relevant to women of color. And they're claiming police brutality to women, voter disenfranchisement, all of these things. Do you women in this area really feel that way? I mean, really, come on, gals, get on the telephone. I know you're probably shuttling the kids off to school and getting ready maybe to jump in the car and go to work, but take the time to give me a call. Do you really feel like you're being put down and pushed into being a second-class citizen? I'd like to hear from you if you think so. Deanna and I talked about this at great length this morning. And without my wife helping me in this business, there would be no business. Without my wife helping me, period, there would be no Zeb Bell. She has been the anchor in very tumultuous seas that I have incurred over the many, many years, health-wise or business-wise. She is not lower by any means, not subservient by any means. She is my equal, and without her, there would be no me. And I'm sure that many of you feel the same way. But to listen to the garbage that is spewed by the likes of Jane Fonda and others that are supportive of this anarchy, I'd like to hear what you have to say about it. So the microphones are open. And if anybody said, well, I didn't get a chance to voice my opinion, I listened to that Zeb Bell, I'm giving you the floor right now. What more do you want? Please call in. While I'm waiting for your call that I hope is coming in. Caller, I'm going to do a quick weather. 60 seconds. Bear with me because your call is important. Stand by. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids with Dr. Christine Pickup, Doctor of Audiology, right behind the Minidoka Hospital across from the emergency room. Number to call, 312-0957. And with their new testing ability, they can help diagnose one of the common causes of vertigo. Please get a hold of them today for your hearing problems. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Caller, don't leave. I'll be right there. Here's Gina with the weather.
First day of the work week, and we are in a winter weather advisory. Good Monday morning. Here is your weather forecast for us up at the ranch. We are expecting about an 80% chance of snow showers. That's supposed to be kicking off at about 8 o'clock this morning. This winter weather advisory is in effect till about 11 o'clock this morning. Snow before 2 is what they're calling for. Then a chance of rain or snow later on this afternoon and this evening. High of 37. Winds out of the south 10 to 18 miles an hour. Gusts possible as high as 24 miles an hour. Total daytime snow accumulations of less than 1 inch possible. For tonight, mostly cloudy skies. Low of about 26. Still going to be a little bit breezy out there. For tomorrow, partly sunny skies. High of 40. Mostly cloudy and 29 for tomorrow night. By Wednesday, partly sunny skies with a high of 43. However, for Wednesday night, we do have a slight chance of rain or snow showers in the forecast before midnight and then clearing out after midnight. That is your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Brought to you by Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids with the lovely Dr. Christine Pickup. If you're noticing hearing problems, you better give her a call right now for an appointment, 312-0957. Caller, thank you for your patience. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Chad. I have an opinion.
Wait a minute, Chris. Before you start, I just knew that you were going to call, and I'm not being facetious. You have always called in when I've asked for women's opinions and your feelings on certain things. So thank you. I wanted to say thank you up front. Go ahead.
Well, thank you. I grew up as a sister in the middle of 5 brothers. And my dad was an Army sergeant. I think he was higher than that. But anyway, around our household, my dad demanded that my brothers be gentlemen and fair and kind. And also, at the same time, if us girls in our family didn't obey the rules, we really got taken to task too. I think there is too much of this parenting that says, oh, we can't disturb their little inner self and discipline them because they may not be creative. Well, look at how creative they're getting without the discipline that they've had, and it is not helping our country.
Chris, and again, I'm being very blunt, have you ever felt, as a woman, and I know you've dabbled in politics, you've been a member of a farm family that's highly respected, and you, of course, have done your lion's share to make sure that family is successful. But have you ever felt that because you're a woman that you are being denigrated, looked down upon, lessened in value, or have not had the opportunities?
No. And my husband is I am so proud of him because he could be a little difficult if he wanted to, but he encourages me to do the things that I really enjoy, and a lot of it is representing the female species. And yet, we don't have to be controlling. We don't have to be ignorant to our male counterparts. We just need to be ladies, and things will go our way a lot longer and a lot faster.
Let me ask you, what is, if you had to define, you're on a talk show right now, so please tell me how you would define feminism.
I never have liked that word. I don't think that feminism needs to overrule everything else. I think being a woman and being true to your gender, and being what do I want to say? Polite about it, and I think men will be a lot more anxious to help you out.
I think you're 100% right, but when I listen to some of the blurps and the bleeps that had to be taken out of interviews of the so-called women feminists that were back in D.C. and other protestations across the United States, it just said to me, is the feminist movement that crude and rude that they have to resort to that kind of language? It was absolutely disgusting to me.
Well, it makes me so bad because I'm a female, and I'm glad that I'm a female, and I'm really happy in the way that nature has allowed me to be a part of the male life. And I just think that it's just sad. We've raised 2 sons, and I want my sons to adore the women in their lives and be kind to them. But I think that they need to make decisions on the women that they marry that will be share an equal load with them.
Absolutely. You know, I said it a few moments ago, and I stand by what I said, that the good Lord above helped me find a lady that absolutely has propelled me to the top of my field. Without her, I don't want to even think where I would be.
Well, and as this is the kind of a marriage that you have, most people identify Zed Bell right along with Deanne, because you are an equal partnership.
Yeah, I tell you what, I just absolutely thank the good Lord above for her and all she has done for me. And you know, a lot of people say, well, you're always in the foreground and your poor wife is in the background. Wait a minute. I can't help that because it's the nature of my job and or occupation. But she has been the person in the background that's basically helped prop me up at most of my career, and I certainly appreciate her.
Well, and you reflect that in every show that you put on the radio. We all know that Deanne is your equal partner.
Absolutely. Chris, I wish you the very best, and I do thank you again from my heart for calling in.
Thank you.
God bless.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. You know, when I listened to the local march in Twin Falls, and they said all voices need to be heard for balanced decisions. Well, of course. Nobody is saying that women shouldn't have an equal voice, for heaven's sakes. That was from Catherine Talkington in Twin, which her family extremely liberal anyway. And those voices have a responsibility to actively participate to be heard. Well, nobody's trying to squelch their voice. And this idiocy and incompetency by some on the liberal left saying that President Trump is trying to denigrate and take away women's rights and the value of women. What? Show me chapter and verse on that. That is absolute lunacy. But what really bothered me about the whole thing is that the press, including our illustrious Times News, gave virtually nothing to the Right to Life March on Friday and the values of family values. But yet they carried a couple of stories, one again this morning, on the Women's March, the liberal aspect of the Women's March. Thoughts are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know, I will say this one more time, that no matter what the subject is on this program, depending on the segment or the guest, the left and the liberals, they always wait till the program is over. And then they'll send an email, or then they'll call and chastise me. But they haven't got the spine to do it on the air. Don't forget wintertime driving. Now, I look out my window, and to be very honest and frank with you, I can't see very far out my window because it is snowing. So I have told you, yes, get ready for wintertime driving. And yeah, maybe we're only going to get an inch, and then maybe tomorrow not so bad. But then, it's still here, and it's not going to go away for a while. Make sure you've got the traction tires to get you through all the snow and the ice, the muck and the yuck. And, of course, that means stopping into your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations with all the tires that you need for safe driving. And the tire chains, the best in brake service, front end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries. You know, they've got a tagline that says, doing the right thing matters. And boy, does it ever at all 7 locations. They really care. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. The best. Let's see. Scary story this morning. Tokyo, Japan. Over the weekend, they were conducting many mass nuclear war drills. Intense testing drills to get people in the larger city of Tokyo, etc., into the various bomb shelters. You know, I shudder to think where we may be, really, on the ticking clock for some idiot to hit the button. And when you hear stories like this of tests and drills going on in Tokyo, Japan, which they're right in the site of North Korea, it does make one pause. And in my case, look up to the heavens and say, Lord, help us if you can. Next hour, we've got Frosty Woldridge, and we're not going to pull any punches with having Frosty on the air. I'll tell you what, he's going to talk about DACA, Dreamers, and the illegal aliens being supported by the Democrats. And then at 9:30, Michael Dougherty with somebody spying on you in your own bedroom. And you know what? Who's at fault? You are, because if you bought this material to have a hearing ear and a spying eye in your bedroom, look out. He's going to tell us all about it. Tomorrow, don't forget the legislative update at 9:30. And tomorrow we're going to have Representative Fred Wood on the program, sponsored by our dear friends at Handy Truck Lines. Thank you, Clay. We appreciate it. Right now, let's go to the news from CBS. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Oh my, we are seeing a lot of angel dandruff fall outside this morning. Be careful out there on the highways and byways, and I think it's going to probably quit and curtail itself in another hour or so, according to the weather forecast. But drive carefully, okay? Welcome to Zevith Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And, of course, some of our great advertisers like Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. Hello, Nick Greenwell at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, my old compadre Wheels over at the main station is going to play a little jingle for our friends at Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're all at the Georgia disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
I urge you to write this number down because they are always at your disposal at Western Waste Services, 734-6969. Get on the route service, and once a week, here comes that big truck, and they get your garbage. Wave goodbye. It's gone. It's out of there. Great, efficient service to you from Western Waste Services. Get rid of your garbage, 734-6969, always at your disposal. Also, a big thank you goes out to our dear friends that have been with us a long time on this program, and we really appreciate Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert, and the number to call, 436-5636. I urge you to remember that number. I urge you to remember that Joel Heward, his family, and his staff are always there with very flexible hours to serve you and your family when there's the passing of a loved one. Always, always with the highest ethical standards, with unquestioned integrity. Ladies and gentlemen, Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. Joel Heward also serving you at Morrison Payne, East Main in Burley. Well, it's Monday, and I'm just going to be very blunt about the introduction to my next guest. We may not agree on some other issues some of the time, but we are brothers linked in arms over this stupidity and arrogancy of the Democrats trying to further illegal aliens, illegal immigration, and DACA. And I loved the piece that he wrote. I got a copy of it right here in my hand. I am not willing to donate my country. Frosty Woldridge, excellent job. Good morning to you.
Well, thank you very much, Zeb, and we are brothers in arms, shoulder to shoulder, to save our country from this exponential growth created by mass immigration. I would ask everyone to go to numbersusa.org on the latest piece that was also done by Roy Beck, a man whom I literally adore and admire.
Frosty, Frosty, wait a minute. Can you hear me? You are breaking up really, really bad. I don't know why, problem with the cell phone or something, but it's really breaking up. I'm hearing almost half the words. Is there any other number that we can call or call you on?
Yeah, well, I'm okay, call me back, 303-666-6186.
Okay, we'll try that because it's really, really bad, so we'll try that real quick. Wheels, at the station, did you get that number?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay, if you could call him back, it's absolutely, I don't know what happened, but if you could call him immediately and we'll try to get him on the air, I'll do a quick commercial and then let me know if he's there, okay?
Will do.
All right, thank you. While we're waiting to see if we can't reestablish that phone, sometimes I hate cell phones. Anyway, we're going to try to call him and get him back. Let's ride. Don't forget, they're right over there at 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World, open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturdays, 9 to 4. And with the snow falling here in the valley, you know they're getting a lot of snow up in the hills. And, boy, all the more reason to get over there. If you've never owned a snowmobile, boy, they can help you. They've got all kinds of choices over there, including, all the accessories. And don't forget, for the coming spring, all the four-wheelers and the side-by-sides. Oh, yeah. They can help you. They will help you. And a super service department, too. Let's ride. 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. And this is the original place where the fun is sold. Do we have him back?
We do. It's still breaking up a little bit. I'm assuming that it's because of the phone line, but it's a lot better, so hopefully this works.
Okay, Frost, hold it really, really still. We'll try to get through the interview. Go ahead, my friend. I'm sorry we had to do what we had to do.
Okay, thank you, Zeb. I would ask everyone to look at Facebook this morning.
No, it's just not going to work.
I respect and admire greatly. He has put out a new piece on the 7 amnesties that have been given since 1986 that have created multiple millions more of illegal aliens who have benefited from those amnesties. And this DACA amnesty, everyone keeps thinking that it's going to be only 800,000 kids. Well, they're not kids. They're all adults. They're all Mexicans. They're all literally from other countries. And what's happening is Schumer and Pelosi and the Democrats...
Now, Wheels, go ahead. Clip the call, if you would, please, Wheels. And tell my dear friend, I hate to do it, but for the sake of losing him and not being able to hear every word, we're going to have to clip the interview unless we can establish it on a landline. Talk to him for a moment, if you would, Wheels, and explain the situation. But that's what they call VoIPing out. And quite frankly, we have no control over that. It is not the fault of the radio station. Do not call us and condemn anybody. It's just the fact that sometimes weather conditions and cell phones, we just can't get it done. And there's so much I wanted to ask him about. So if there's a way we can reestablish another line, I would love to have him on the air. In the interim, I need your help to call me now at 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. The gist of the article that Frosty had, which was an excellent article that he had written that we were going to be talking about, is that, quite frankly, he is not going to donate this country, the United States, and turn it over to illegal aliens, DACA dreamers, or anybody else in the Democratic Party, just basically opening up the floodgates of illegality and illegal aliens coming into this country for the sole purpose, this is my opinion, of getting nothing more but votes for the Democratic Party. And you're going to be hearing a lot more of this in the future. You're going to be hearing from now until Election Day 2018 much, much more about the Democrats and their backing of illegal aliens for the purpose. They might come out and say, well, it's a fair thing to do. Well, no, it's not. They're buying votes for their election. And by the way, I noticed also that in California, now they're making a big, big push to have driver's licenses be okay for the illegal aliens, and then also use that so that the illegal aliens, can vote. It's coming. It's coming like a storm, and it's got to be stopped. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. We have another caller calling in, and thank you very much. Caller, go ahead, please. You're on the air.
This is George Faulkner.
Yes, sir.
I'm just calling to tell you that I didn't think much of our government right now.
Why do you say that, George? Because I hold you in high respect for your service to this country and you as a person and a voter. Why do you say that?
Because it's shut down in a wonderful country like this with no government for a few days. When they cut off the military pay, I wonder if they cut off the food to the military also.
I can't say that they did, or I even think that they would. However, George, I would say this, that the shutting down the government by the Democrats, and it is their fault, it's nobody else's fault, that to just basically support illegal aliens, DACA, etc., over and above you and me and our military, when they go to the polls this next November, I hope people remember who really was at fault.
Well, I think there's more than just the Democrats at fault. You know, I think that also the presidents are at fault, and I think the Republicans are at fault, and they should forget DACA and all that and work on the budget and get our government rolling.
I would agree with you, George, but now let me ask you this, and you've been here for a long time studying this, but when you say the president, I wish that Trump would say today at noon, we're going to use the nuclear option of 51 votes, forget the Democrats, and we're going to push this through and get this government back in action. Is that what you're advocating?
I would advocate that the House and Senate represent the people instead of the party line and work for the good of our country and our citizens, because it used to be the government by the people, for the people, and now it's by the people.
I couldn't agree with you more, and you have seen more government administrations than I have, not by much, but by a little bit. And with the way things are going now, let me ask you, whether you like Trump or you don't like Trump, whether you like this administration or you don't like this administration, you have to admit that there are better economic times in the last year. There's more optimism. There's more attitude for fueling a stronger American economy. What are your thoughts about that?
My thoughts are that there's some things I agree with the president. I do not agree with him wanting a wall, a Berlin Wall down there. And I don't think if we get that, he'd want one on a Canadian border. I think he should concentrate on getting a budget approved and getting our government to rolling. And I do not agree with everything he does, but a lot of the things I do agree with. I have mixed emotions on it.
Well, you said not a wall, but I'm going to put you on the spot there a little bit, George. You're a dear friend, but I want a good answer on this. How, then, are we going to curb illegal immigration? How are we going to stop people coming up from not just Mexico, but South America, etc.? How are we going to stop it?
Well, my idea is that we have troops all over the world. I think 38,000 in South Korea. And if they have a day off, they spend their money there. If we brought them home and put them along the border, and then when they have a day off or a leave, or they need some supplies, it would be right here in the United States instead of in some foreign country. And I think we'd ought to let some of these countries shift for themselves, and we'd ought to look after the United States. If we had enough troops down along the border, I don't think we'd have to worry about it, and I don't think a wall is going to stop it anyway.
All right. Well, George, you are extremely welcome to call anytime on this program. Be careful if you go outside. The snow is falling, and watch your step.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Zeb.
God bless you, man. Thanks. I understand that we have reestablished another phone call with Frosty, and I'm really glad, too. Frosty, go ahead. Back on the air. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Zeb. One of the things I want everyone to appreciate is this, is numbersusa.org with Roy Beck.
he has now done all the research and these 800,000 DACAs. And I want to really make this clear. Schumer and Pelosi and the Democrats are the ones that shut the government down because you had to have 60 votes. And the fact is DACA doesn't run out until March. So it's a false narrative here that Schumer has created, trying to panic us into getting the government going. He's attached all of this to getting the government back into gear. And here's the reality of the DACA. It's not 800,000. According to Roy Beck, it's 3.5 million DACA students, if you will, or kids that have been dragged across this border as a direct result of men like Schumer and even Boehner, and right before him, Nancy Pelosi. They have blocked E-Verify over 15 years now. 15 years they've blocked the E-Verify bill to mandate that all employers check for the validity of employees. And they have stopped it in the Congress. So this whole DACA fiasco has been created. Charles Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Harry Reid, and you can go right on down the line. And so that's what's going on. But in reality, he just put out, Roy Beck put out the last 7 amnesties from 1986 on. We have absorbed millions of illegals and then made them legal, and that just created more millions of illegals. And now, instead of 800,000 DACA students, it's going to be 3.5 million. The cost will jump from about 25 to 26 billion. It will jump to somewhere over $100 billion to incorporate all of these 3.5 million DACAs, and then they will be able to literally chain migrate 10, 15, 20 million of their relatives. In other words, this is an invasion created by Congress and Charles Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Harry Reid, when he was in office, and all of those Democrats that want our country flooded with refugees who are all going to go on welfare, and we're paying the bill. We have got to stop this, so I urge every one of you listening today, join NumbersUSA.org, make those phone calls to your senators and your House reps, and absolutely demand that DACA be completely scuttled, and we do not want all these illegal alien DACA students. We don't want their relatives, and we don't want the costs that are going to be associated with it. That is the message I could give you today.
Well, wait a minute, though, Frosty. You said the term DACA students, and let's be very fair. You explained this a week ago, and I think you should poignantly point it out again today. They are not all students, many of which are in trouble with the law, many of which have been arrested, many of which are felons, many of which, of course, have belonged to gangs and still belong to gangs. Let's not paint the picture that all of these DACA dreamers are absolute pillars of the community.
And they aren't. As a matter of fact, at least half of them did not graduate from high school. At least half of them flunked out or dropped out. These are not what you'd call stellar citizens coming up into America. What they are is Mexicans and Salvadorians and all of the other kinds of MS-13 people. They're drug runners, and they're just they're miscreants is what they are, and they have no right to be American citizens. And it is amazing that all these DACA recipients are shutting down our country when they're not even a part of our country. They are not citizens. They are illegal aliens brought here with their illegal alien parents, and it's time we stop this. As Roy Beck said, we've given 7 major amnesties that have amnestied all of these illegals, and all it did was bring us more illegals, and this one's going to cost us upwards of $100 billion, and have all of these new Democrats vote Democratic. It will turn our states and our literally our demographics are going to change toward Mexican heritage and Mexican worldview and Mexican propensities, and we're literally going to continue to lose our own country to all of these immigrants not even
even legal in our own country.
May I quickly, because we've only got about 6 minutes left in this segment, I want to read what you quoted, social scientist Garrett Hardin, and then I want you to respond to it. It was an excellent quote in your article. Diversity within a nation destroys unity and leads to civil wars. Immigration, a benefit during the youth of a nation, can act as a disease in its mature state. Too much internal diversity in large nations has led to violence and disintegration. We are now in the process of destabilizing our own country. The magic words of destabilizers are diversity and multiculturalism. I want you to elaborate on that. Go ahead.
Yes, and I want you to all appreciate this, that Europe right now is being torn to pieces because of diversity and multiculturalism. Sweden is literally becoming an inferno. Norway is being disintegrated. Rapes are the norm for Muslim immigrants in their own country. Women are treated as property. They are beaten. They have no choice of mate. They have no choice of voice. They have no choice of dress. That kind of diversity is now coming into America. The kind of diversity and multiculturalism is displacing our very successful culture here in America. And Garrett Hardin said it exactly correctly. And I personally have seen it myself personally. My brother Rex, who lives in Norway, is watching Oslo is being taken over by Muslim immigrants. They're literally taking over. Sharia law is now taking over. They've got Sharia thugs going around making sure that everybody is part of and must submit to Sharia law. That's what's happening to our country piece by piece. You now have illegal aliens having immunity in California and all the 200-plus sanctuary cities in this country. We're literally having the rule of law being completely negated. That's what happens when you have the loss of the rule of law, and that's what's happening to our country. And the more we bring in all of these immigrants, whether they're Chinese, whether they're Indians, whether they're Mexicans, whether they're Muslims, they are all going to displace the American culture, and they are simply going to create kind of chaos that you're seeing in America today. It's only going to get worse. And as I can remind you once again, we're looking at another 100 million of these immigrants coming into our country.
You know, Frosty, you and
listening today think we're going to survive this.
You know, every week we talk about this, and yeah, the naysayers are out there, but they haven't got the spine, as I've said earlier, to call and arbitrate with you and I on the radio. They'll wait till the show is over, and then they'll either send me an email or an anonymous phone call. But you know, the first three letters of diversity, D-I-V, the same as the first three letters in the word divide. And I've said diversity does nothing more but divide our culture, shred it, and throw it apart so that eventually we're going to turn into a third world country. I think you agree.
I would, and I would also, this week, go to newswithviews.com. It's up on the top. It's called I Am Not Willing to Donate My Country, and it's a story about a gal who went in the Peace Corps, Karen McQuillan, back early in her life. And the first thing she said was, I wanted to donate 2 years of my life to make Africa a better place to live. And she went into West Africa, which was Senegal. And then when she got there, she just said in plain English, S-H-I-T is everywhere. People defecate on the open ground. The feces is blown with the dust onto you, onto your clothes, in your food, on the water. And she said the doctor warned us the first day, do not touch the water. Human feces carries parasites that bore through your skin and cause you organ failure. And while she did all of this, she learned that cultures are not compatible with America. Certainly African cultures are not compatible with America. And at the end of the piece, she says, I don't mind helping other countries, and I was happy to donate 2 years of life as a young woman to help these poor Senegalese in Africa, but I am not willing to donate my country, unquote.
Frosty, I'm out of time, but I want you to know I'm saving this piece that you have sent me this week called I Am Not Willing to Donate My Country. Frosty Woldridge in Golden, Colorado. I'm sorry we had some technical problems. Hopefully they'll be rectified next week. Thank you. Thank you very much for being on the program this morning. You know that you're always welcome. Take care, my friend. Yeah, appreciate it. And by the way, when we have that VoIP problem, or where the calls keep cutting out and everything, it's not Wheels' fault at the station. It's not the station's fault. It's the nature of the beast of that type of communication. Possibly the weather. Who knows what caused it today? But it was much worse than ever, and that's why we terminated that first call. I want to remind you about our friends at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More with Jeff and the whole crew. Out with the old, in with the new. You can carpet your entire home. Living room, hall, 3 bedrooms. And this special deal I'm going to talk about includes carpet pad and installation up to 115 square yards or 1,035 feet. Woo! Wow! You can get the standard carpet for $69 a month. Better carpet for $89 per month. And the premium carpet for just $99 a month. Interest-free for 2 years. You better check it out today. Woo! Beautify your home. From Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. 459 Overland in Burley. Great staff. Knowledgeable staff. Ready to help you at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Really, really nice people. By the way, too, before we get to our next guest, I want to remind you that when it comes to life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits for you, your family, and your business, look no further than the telephone number for Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert, 436-4424. I'll repeat it again, 436-4424. They are very devoted to serving you and taking care of your needs. Please don't put it off. Don't put it on the back burner. You call them today. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Right now, we're going to go back to the phone line and play Russian roulette with the phones today with all the snow falling and everything. And I've told this gentleman when he's been on in the past that when it comes to technology, technocracy, and everything with computers and everything, I am the dumbest person in the world. And he's going to tell us more about Facebook putting cameras and microphones into our homes. Here's tech industry analyst Michael Doherty, director at the National Cybersecurity Society. Good morning, Michael. How are you?
Good morning, sir. Now, I wouldn't call you, dumb or stupid, maybe slightly ignorant, but if you're asking questions, that's the first step. That's the first step.
Well, I appreciate the way you phrase that, I think. No, Michael.
You're too hard on yourself.
Listen, I am trying to learn little by little at my old age, but you know what? When I read your headline of Facebook putting cameras and microphones into our homes, I said, wait a minute. This has got to stop. This is way beyond the pale. Explain what's going on.
Well, what's going on is what's been going on. We just don't really, comprehend it. It's so outside of our experience. I mean, you've got cameras in your laptop and your phone and your television. It's the Internet of Things all over the place. And so these different companies, Facebook, Google, they all have different products coming out, one of which is a bedroom alarm, a bedroom notification, and these things have cameras. Now, see, it's not the fact that it's not meant to film or listen into what's going in your bedroom. It's the fact that our security is terrible, that they gather data for one reason, but they can use it for another, that it's not kept safe and other people can hack it, that they're politicized so that they'll gather information about us. And then, it is amazing, especially on the left, if they think that they are going to advance their agenda, since they know that they're right and they know that they're admirable, they think that breaking the rules are fine. And we're seeing people that actually think that physical violence and anarchy is fine, or a political enemies list is fine. So all these things sound conspiracy theorist-like until now we see stories coming out. So the real issue is we're giving away all this information about us, and in many cases letting it used against us or being monetized by someone else, instead of paying for services with cash. Instead of paying to belong to Facebook or paying a membership, we pay with our information about us. And that, you might think you got nothing to hide. It's not really about anything to hide. It's about some people might not like what they discover about you and will use it against you.
I'm sitting here listening to you, Michael, and I've always respected the many times you've been on the program in the past, your explanations. But I, for one, have never wanted to be a part of the social media to the point where all my information, everything I do, whenever I turn around, whoever I talk to, whatever I do for a living or anything else is always open for public scrutiny. But those days are gone, I would assume. And what privacy is left for us today?
Well, there's little privacy, because you could look at someone's Facebook posts from the last 2 years and learn. It put so much together on them, do such a profile. If you showed them that profile on one page, they'd be mortified. So there's very little privacy, and what I think people don't understand is why that's a problem and what they're giving up. You can say, well, I've got nothing to hide. This isn't about, again, nothing to hide. It's about people using things against you. You do have things to hide. That doesn't mean those things are bad. You have things to hide. They should be hidden. What you do when you're in the voting booth or your bedroom is no one's business. And so, letting that information possibly get out or together, and that's just for starters, is an issue. I mean, just because you're in your home watching television, having a beer, sitting on the couch, does not mean that someone else has the right to know that that's where you are.
Yeah, but
so it's time to kind of wake up the innocence here, and the reason it's gotten so far down the road is twofold. One is which is we just don't understand the beast we created because it's growing so fast. That's the first reason. The second reason is we have a government that's run by bureaucracy and bureaucrats and politicians as far as cyber defense, not military. These are not the Marines. These are bureaucrats. Marines have a culture of accountability. Bureaucrats actually have a protection racket where there is no accountability, and if you do try to hold them accountable, they'll make sure you're tossed out in your ear. Hence, look at Donald Trump and the war on him. And so when you have no accountability, then you've got a bunch of slackers. And that has not the reason for such insecurity, but it is a massive reason why it's so bad and it's so slow to fix. And we have to connect these dots and realize we've got a whole infrastructure, a culture that's been going on for centuries, by the way.
Yeah.
Not just a presidential cycle. And it's at a tipping point because we are chock full of people in there that are just protecting their own comfy little jobs where there's no accountability. I mean, who wouldn't love a job where you get paid well, it's impossible to get fired, and no one will get mad at you if you screw up? I mean, wouldn't we all love to sign up for that?
Michael, the cork is out of the bottle, so to speak, and is there any way with a person like your expertise, and also the book that you wrote, The Devil Inside the Beltway, the shocking expose of the U.S. government surveillance and overreach into cybersecurity, medicine, and small business, with that book and your knowledge, how do we put the cork back in the bottle so that we can preserve some semblance of decency and secrecy about our lives, or is it too late?
It's not too late. Never too late. But it's not easy. And we also want things done at a snap of a finger, or do it because I say so. We've got Twitter attention spans. We're addicted to immediacy. We can't concentrate on anything. And that's the problem, because if you build something in a century, you can't take it down in a week. And we have built an infrastructure, and you can thank the Congresses and the presidents of the 20th century. They're all dead now. You can thank their stupidity and naivete. It all boils down to that they did not understand the Founding Fathers, and they allowed these agencies to have unbelievable power. And until Congress and the executive branch pulls that power away, which Trump is trying to do, they will be able to pound us down and not hold themselves accountable. So you have to understand the problem first. And then you have to understand how long it took to build it. You got to be realistic about how long it's going to take to take down. Now, that being said, nothing scares a politician more than a very clear constituency. And the secret's going to be to make Congress do their thing. This election coming up in 2018 is really going to be terrifying for both sides, because the temper tantrum the political class is throwing from their first whiff of being held accountable by the election of Donald Trump has got them in absolute hysterics. And they're throwing every dirty trick and lever they can. And so if they continue to lose in the 2018, then they'll double down again, but we'll start to whittle against it and hold people accountable. If they win and the status quo wins, they'll be very emboldened and they'll dig in deeper and they'll go for the heads of the people they want in there. So it is, I'll tell you, it is like the Sopranos go to Washington. And once you break with the family, there's no going back. And then if they get back in power, they'll come get you. And that's what's going on in the establishment right now.
You know,
and it's a problem because we have to understand these people aren't protecting us anymore. And we have to demand that they protect us.
Yeah.
And until that gets dealt with, we're not going to do much better.
What about people like you banding together to be our protection team? And by that I mean, I bought a smartphone. I've had one for a couple of years. And basically, with that smartphone in my pocket, I feel like I'm giving up a lot of safety, security, and secrecy that I don't want other people to know. But why would anybody in their right mind, and I question right mind, want to put something in their home that would give even more of the bad guys more knowledge about what we do and what we say? I just don't understand why we want to do that type of thing.
Well, it's not so... Well, first of all, we don't see the cause and effect right away. And again, people don't have much attention span. Yeah. Second of all, it doesn't happen to each individual that often. They go after the big pools of data. And so there's no reality. People learn through their own experience. And at that emotional level, and they can't do it just at an intellectual level. So it hasn't hit home enough yet. People haven't had enough direct loss or attack yet. So it's very difficult because most people think someone like me may be overreacting. And while that is changing, it's not changing fast enough, especially with the younger generation. Those people, the younger people, have no concept of what they're doing, recording their foolish youth. From their naked pictures to drug usage to associations to political statements. I mean, all the stupid things I did when I was a kid, and I'm so glad they're not recorded. Can you imagine?
Oh, boy.
What'll happen when these people start running for Senate and president? And they learn that it does matter, and they learn that the media will come and maul you. It's a culture that's going to have to learn the hard way. So the problem really is people's own experience hasn't taught them yet, and I don't think people really learn enough. So we'll see what happens here. This is why the country's so split, actually.
You know, I'm envisioning in what you're saying, Michael, and again, I am not the techno expert, never will, don't want to be, that you are, but thank God we have people like you. But I'm envisioning kind of a concept of a Wizard of Oz, with the wizard, of course, being the technocrat that takes and administers all the information from all the people, and then they form their opinions against certain groups and have complete control over any society. Is that kind of a good or a bad way to synopsize what's going on?
Well, I think that I don't think there's complete control. There's an inner war, and I still think the individual can impact things really, really well. Because otherwise, if they had so much power, they wouldn't work so hard to keep it secret. Okay, but look, Donald Trump did win, so look at what's happened with the FBI. The reputation just over the weekend, oh my gosh, what a shock. The day that Mueller became the investigator, and for 5 months after, all the texts are missing between the two FBI agents. They just didn't preserve them. Wow, how stupid do they think we are? But so this is the type of thing where, we have got to understand that our powerlessness is just ours to give up. But if we take action once we know about it, that things can be done. I mean, the FBI is taking a massive hit right now, and so is the DOJ and their reputation. Massive. I mean, there's the point of just lying right to the face of the American public and waiting to see what we're going to do about it. It's a tragic situation, but they know to keep it secret. And that means that there are consequences if they don't.
Let me ask you this. If you were right now addressing an audience, or you're in an auditorium and people want to know how they can turn this bus around, what would you tell Joe Common Citizen and Sarah Common Citizen that they should or should not do daily so they have some preservation of privacy? What would you tell us?
I think the number one thing you have to do is call your congressman. People don't understand that if you call your D.C. office congressman, every one call they think about 900 people in the district. Every one call. You have your expectations set. You want to talk to someone to record your comment for 30 seconds. You're not going to waste your time with a conversation. They're going to listen to you anyway. They calculate what people call about and what topics. So you just call and say, this is what matters to me. I want my privacy done. I want Congress to rein in the FBI. I want Congress to clean house with the DHA. I want the Intelligence Committee to release the memo. That is an incredibly powerful thing, and here's why. They count those up like a score. And when the phone rings with the same topic over and over, they pay attention. Because they're like, they're fear-driven on re-election. And that hits them right at home. So that's actually a very powerful thing. Now, the expectation you're going to get dinner and a letter and anything from the congressman back, forget that. That's not going to happen. They don't have time. And it'll be a form letter that means nothing. But those are the biggest thing. The other thing is just, put your foot down and not allow things to don't participate in the exploitation of you. Don't put that stuff up. Don't put that stuff up. Some things you can't help, like your bank information. But, just don't make it worse. And let Facebook and Twitter and Google know you're going elsewhere. They're businesses, and they're very touchy. All of these people know what they're doing is wrong. That's why they try to keep it a secret.
When you had the book and you wrote the book, The Devil Inside the Beltway, what was the main purpose that you wrote this book for? Was it the common citizenry, like people like myself, to learn what to do and what to learn about big government and how they're trying to oversee us? What was the main theme behind the book that you had written, The Devil Inside the Beltway?
It was purely telling it like a story so people would understand the shocking truth of how the government really operates. I just wanted to educate people in an edutaining way because it's so terrifying. If I didn't tell like a story, the book would sort of implode in your hands. It's just to understand exactly how and the government works. And that's why I have their letters in there and their behavior and their emails. I mean, I just hold a mirror up. And as long as I'm credible and honest, it has impact because it's terrifying and people don't want to believe it, and I don't want to believe it. But we can't fix it till we understand it, and it's amazing how the culture's changed even in 4 years. I mean, you couldn't criticize the government 5 years ago. People thought you were terrible, and now everyone's going, oh yeah. Well, I think that's a good thing. It's sad, but it's good because that's how we get it fixed.
All right, now one final thought here. You're talking about today. We're talking about cameras and microphones and smartphones and everything else. But with your expertise, look ahead 5 or 10 years in the future. How much scarier can things get?
Oh, wow, they can get way scarier because it depends on what information is stolen and by who. The thing about the internet that's been the bad thing is that it's centralized massive amounts of data. And massive amounts of data then can be analyzed. So if someone that's adversarial to the country steals that data and then can analyze it and always has it, that's a huge problem. That's why the Office of Personnel Management breach of those millions of records and fingerprints is one of the worst things that's ever happened in the country because I believe China's got it and they've got, millions of people of fingerprints, and they know people are doing that, and they've got time to analyze it. So that data, as it gets pooled and put up, that's the damaging part, because those are people that are enemies to the Congress, the commerce of the country, and the founding principles of freedom of the country. Most people in power, most governments in power in the world hate when the population has power. And we have a system to empower the population. Most don't. And if they can, and they try to self-undermine it. And that's what's really dangerous. You've got these kids that are millennials that on the one hand have this huge, powerful tool in their hand called their smartphone, and they're turning into socialists and communists. It's just bizarre because they have no frame of reference. And so they have no idea about the anarchy and tyranny. They're like spoiled little rich kids.
How afraid?
That's so bad, sorry to say.
No, how afraid are you? Last thought and last question here. You mentioned the millennials, and I'm an old man, but I look at the millennial generation. Not all of them, of course, but many of them, or most in their numbers. And I look at ignorance. I look at a lack of caring to really solve the ignorance, and kind of following the band like sheep. This is a generation that I fear that in 20 years is going to be totally taken over by the government and run by the government whichever way they want them to go.
Well, I think they're extremely ignorant, and it's extremely shallow, because the irony is they absolutely take complete power and freedom for granted. The problem is the for granted part. They've never had to fight for anything. They were born with a smartphone in their hand. They know how to use computers by the time they're 4. This builds this complete lack of a frame of reference of not having everything at their fingertips. And so if they lose their freedom, they'll be outraged. And, but they've never lost their freedom before. And they've never experienced real socialism, real communism before. So everyone that has never experienced it before thinks it sounds wonderful. What do you think? That's why there's so many that are wealthy. You know, if you've never experienced pain, it's really different to talk about it in a theoretical way. So I think they will get a very huge slap in the face, and I think they can, it'll be a wake-up call, but I don't give up hope, because they're very demanding little buggers, and they might turn on a dime.
You know, I always look forward to having you on this program, and I appreciate your putting up with my naive questions on certain aspects of technology. And Michael Dougherty, director of the National Cybersecurity Society and the author of the book called The Devil Inside the Beltway, thank you for being on the program again this morning.
Great talking to you, my friend.
Thank you, sir. Very, very interesting about, can you imagine, seriously, Facebook putting cameras and microphones in our homes, and Amazon wants to put a camera and microphone in your bedroom, and the United Kingdom is launching this new device called the Echo Home device, and the camera sells for $129, and it supposedly doubles up as a smart alarm, and probably will be right next to the user's bed. Whew. Weather forecast. And I can tell you what it is. Snow. Right now, the weather brought to you by Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane and Company, providing accounting services to the Mini-Cash area for well over 50 years. With the best of tax return preparation, tax planning, business consulting, bookkeeping services, retirement planning, and so much more. They are excellent. I know, because that's where I go. Phillips, Oaks, Goodwin, Crane and Company, with offices in Burley and Rupert. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
First day of the work week, and we are in a winter weather advisory. Good Monday morning. Here is your weather forecast for us up at the ranch. We are expecting about an 80% chance of snow showers. That's supposed to be kicking off at about 8 o'clock this morning. This winter weather advisory is in effect till about 11 o'clock this morning. Snow before 2 is what they're calling for. Then a chance of rain or snow later on this afternoon and this evening. High of 37. Winds out of the south 10 to 18 miles an hour, gusts possible as high as 24 miles an hour. Total daytime snow accumulations of less than 1 inch possible. For tonight, mostly cloudy skies, low of about 26. Still going to be a little bit breezy out there. For tomorrow, partly sunny skies, high of 40, mostly cloudy, and 29 for tomorrow night. By Wednesday, partly sunny skies with a high of 43. However, for Wednesday night, we do have a slight chance of rain or snow showers in the forecast before midnight, and then clearing out after midnight. That is your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Oh, Gina, thank you very much, and thank you to Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. I know Leyden Crane real well. This is a great, great business, and accounting services to the Mini-Cash area, as I said, for well over 50 years. Please, if you have questions about maybe expanding your business, maybe getting more employees, whatever, give them a call. They can help you on all facets of your business and your home taxes. Don't forget, Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company, with offices in Burley and Rupert. I've got time for a quick call. Give me a jingle, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Earlier on the news, our local news, I heard that, and I had a story that was in the paper the other day about the many, many rash of burglaries that are going on in the area, and I urge you to lock up everything. Lock up everything. Do not have this old adage, well, you know, we never lock our homes or our pickups or our cars. Well, you better start. You better start, or at least don't have anything of any value whatsoever in those cars, pickups, or whatever. And it's a crying shame that we literally have to lock everything up because of some bad hombres that are in the area. It seems like they hit a lot of places south of Kimberly, and who knows what area might be next. And I urge you to make sure your garages are locked up and make sure that your cars and automobiles, shops, everything is locked, because these kind of bad hombres, unfortunately, are all over. All right, calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Coming up next hour, we're going to have Micah Harris. I do not know this person. I don't think I've ever had him on the program before. And he's the author of a new book called Only Small Things Are Good. And we're going to have him on the air at 10:06. And then a lady that absolutely was one of the favorites of our audience, and that was Lisa Linowes. And she, of course, is against wind energy and solar energy as a huge and enormous cost out of our pocket that is money wasted. She is going to be on the program at 10:30, and wow, I'm looking forward to having her back. Excellent guest. So that's coming up this next hour. And once again, I want to remind you, tomorrow at 9:30, we're expecting United States Senator Mike Crapo to be on the program, and then at 9:06, if I said 9:30, I'm sorry, 9:06, and then at 9:30, the Idaho Legislative Update. Tomorrow, Representative Fred Wood, and of course the legislative update sponsored by our dear friends at Handy Truck Lines, Clay Handy. Thank you very, very much. Right now, let's send it to the news. I'll be right back. Oh, thank you, and welcome back to our last hour on a very snowy Monday morning. Good morning to you. Drive careful out there. Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And, of course, some of our great advertisers like Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. They're going to get you back to feeling like you. They're located at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Absolutely the best. Right now, I also want to talk about somebody else that's absolutely the best, and that's Ark Animal Hospital at 750 21st Street near Connection Credit Union in Heyburn. The number to call, 678-1177. And I want to urge you right now, if you got a little bitty puppy for Christmas or have little bitty puppies at home, now is the time to get them a current pyro vaccine. Don't forget, keep them healthy. and check with Ark Animal Hospital today. And by the way, too, for your dogs, February is teeth cleaning month at Ark Animal Hospital, 20% off. So make an appointment today. Call them at 678-1177, where they have warm hearts for cold noses. Ark Animal Hospital in Heyburn. Right now, let's go to the phone line, and we say a good morning to author Micah Harris. Good morning, Micah. How are you?
Good morning, sir. I'm well. How are you?
Well, the sir part, just call me Zeb. I'd appreciate that, Micah. Are you a first-time author, or have you written many other books in the past?
This is the first book I've had published. So, yes, I'm a first-time author.
All right, well, let's get right down to the nitty-gritty. The title of the book, Only Small Things Are Good. What in the world are you talking about?
So, I wrote this. I live in Washington, D.C., and I've worked in government in some relationship with government for about 12 years. Well, and it's a reminder to those of us who work in a centralized government place that it's only the way government works out on a small level, only the way society works out on a small level that is the good outcome from that. Does that make sense?
It does. And I'll stop you right there, and I'm going to probably precede some other questions by saying this. Can we ever return to common sense, small government representation, or is that a thing of the past?
I don't have a complete answer for you there. But I do think that good societies are built from the bottom up, and they're built from people who first take responsibility for their own town, for their own family, for their own neighborhood, and the people in their lives. And that's the building block of no longer needing a large central government.
Mm-hmm. Now, the premise of the book, it's a fiction book. I'm going to jump in and add some things, and if I'm wrong, correct me. It's a fiction book about basically true isms that are going on in Washington. Is that right?
That's probably fair. Yeah, it is a fiction book, meaning the story you read isn't one that happened exactly that way, but I've tried to write it as a story that could happen.
All right, now...
And it is based on the years I've spent working in government, and particularly in the Pentagon.
Okay, now the book itself, without giving away too much so that it would take away from the reader going to the bookstore, I don't want to do that, but give us kind of a scenario as to why the book and how the book and about the characters and the storyline itself. Give us a little explanation.
Yeah, the book starts out with a character named Joel Alden, and he grew up in a West Texas mechanics kid, and the story starts when he goes to work in the office of the Secretary of Defense, and he tries to bring this mechanics ethos to that place, where in a mechanic shop, you look, you find something wrong, you replace it, you test it and see if it works right, and you can verify that you've done a good job. And then he goes to work with that mindset on actually detainee policy, and I hope it's an entertaining story and also a realistic story and also a serious story as he goes about trying to solve that issue.
Now, you say detainees. Are you talking about what in particular? Be a little bit more explicit about that.
I'm talking about people who have been picked up during these wars we had in Iraq and Afghanistan and other places in the world. A lot of times arrested on the battlefield without being clear why they were there. Some of them absolutely fighting against us. Others who may have been accidental bystanders. And then held in prison, like at Guantanamo Bay or elsewhere in the world. And there's always been a question of what's the right thing to do with these people.
Okay.
So that's the policy issue that Joel Alden has to work on when he's at the Department of Defense.
Okay, now, underlying every fiction book or whatever book, the author is many, many times trying to get his own political preferences in front of the audience. Are these political preferences yours? And explain that if they are.
Yes and no. Several of the characters have different political preferences, and I want to show them in a really healthy dialogue with each other. There's a little bit of a thing with being a fiction author to cover my own hand just a bit, because I want to show you a forceful conversation about what's right to do in a place like this. One that you will see brought up in this book, though, is the national debt, and that is a personal passion of mine. I'm concerned about what that does for the future of my generation. I consider myself a senior millennial. I'm in my mid-30s right now, and I am very concerned about carrying a large debt throughout sort of a whole generation of government.
Well, no, okay. Let me just kind of dissect this a little bit, if I may, in the time remaining. You said you're a senior millennial in your latter 30s. Oh, boy, you're just the kind of a person I want to talk to. I made a statement last... Pardon me?
I said, well, let's talk.
Oh, okay, good. I made a statement last hour, if you will, Micah, and I told my guest, and he agreed with me, that not all, I certainly don't want to lump everybody together, but many, many of the millennial generation today are completely duped into accepting socialism and downcasting and trashing capitalism. They have never had a job. They've never had the responsibilities of trying to make payroll or raise a family, and I'm very concerned 20 years down the road that there are going to be nothing more than roboticized to vote whichever way the government tells them. How far off am I?
Well, so there was a saying, at least when I was in college, that if you're in your 20s and you're not a liberal, you don't have a heart, and if you're in your 30s and you're not a conservative, you don't have a brain. And I think there is a trend with people who go out and enter the workforce and start to feel the demands of a job and the requirements of living in a neighborhood, and there's something that brings you down to earth about that. And I'm hopeful, because I have to be hopeful, that my generation will continue to feel that process as they grow up.
But how can you grow up? Okay, now I'm going to really expand on this, and I'm going to pin you down on a couple things. How can, not you personally, but the millennial generation, how can they grow up when literally everything is handed to them and or given to them and or paid for them, and all they have to do is just follow the Pied Piper right over a cliff?
Well, the way you grow up is your parents get older and you have to take care of them, and maybe you have a family of your own and you have to work at a job that's going to make enough money to pay for that, and you start to encounter the real demands of life. And I think that's part of the maturing process, and the millennial generation will encounter that as well, because we're a generation that's going to have to pay for an unprecedented Social Security bill that's been racked up by the older generation. And I think that we're going to feel the real world force of that. Now, we're already starting to feel it.
I need to interrupt you there because you made a point I think is worth discussion. I have heard this from others of your age bracket and younger, to where they are literally kind of condemnation against people like me and others that are drawing on Social Security that, quite frankly, they have every right to. They've paid into the system since they were probably 14 or 16 years of age. Why do you say that the older people are basically misusing and abusing the system?
So I didn't use the term misusing and abusing there, but there is a demographic challenge for our generation being one of the smallest proportion of the workforce when we go into the workforce, and having a much larger population of retired people while we're in the workforce, and it's a mathematical problem to be worked through.
When you say that, though,
I don't mean to make it to come off as sort of judging people for earning their own retirement and aging, but it is a big challenge for our generation as the tax base to fund that system.
Well, okay, but there again, though, you're pointing the finger, I think, at the wrong generation and the wrong people. It's not me that you should be pointing the finger at with disgust and disdain. I'm not saying you are, but the problem is with the millennials, they're not looking further down the road and saying, wait a minute, it's the government misuse. It's the government putting their fingers in the Social Security till and using those fundings for other amenities that they wanted to fund and or pay for. It's not us, it's the government they should be pointing their finger at.
Well, I mean, I don't tend to distinguish the two quite as sharply as you do. I think because I think people vote for the government, and they are responsible for what their government does, because we live in a representative system.
up to a point, I agree with you on that. I was waiting for you to elaborate a little bit more. But now, tying this into the book, am I wrong or right that maybe this book has a little bit of a liberal slant, or what is the slant that this book takes?
Well, I don't think it has. In fact, I've more often heard it suggested it has a conservative slant, partly because it's concerned with national defense and with reducing the public debt, which has historically been a conservative position to hold. I don't think it's highly slanted, though, because something that one of my projects here, I grew up on a ranch in West Texas, and then I've spent about half my life there and about half my life working in government. And one of the things I wanted to show is, what does human life look like for people who work in government? And what does human life look like for people who work in a ranch? Because there aren't that many people who've seen both of them.
Absolutely. I agree with you. By the way, what part of West Texas were you raised in?
North of Amarillo in the panhandle of Texas.
I know the country very well. I've rodeoed all over that country. I know a lot of people in the Amarillo area. I've been, down in the canyon and everywhere else. I mean, absolutely, I love that part of the country.
Yeah, me too. It's a great place to grow up. It's a great place to live.
It is, but the tying in of your upbringing from West Texas to this book and then to our national debt, I mean, you've got to admit, even in your later 30s, that government has run wild, not depending on any president in particular, whether it was Bush, Clinton, or Obama, whatever. There has always been the wasteful thinking that they can spend their way out of debt, and it's only made the situation worse.
That, say more about that you can spend your way out of debt.
I said that's the problem with these presidents we've had in the past and administrations, regardless of whether it's partisan politics. It's been the thought that they can spend their way out of debt, and it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a combination of people willing to cut taxes without being willing to cut spending, and that's how we get into debt like we have.
I totally agree with you on that point. Now, tie that into your book, and are many of the aspects of what we're talking about this morning, are they part of your storyline for Joel and the rest of the people in your book?
Absolutely, yes. So the story kind of hinges on this universal fantasy that if the president ever just sat down and had a conversation with me, I could tell him how to do things. And so that's there's a moment in the book where the president asks Joel, okay, you're frustrated with how I'm running this country. Tell me, what should I be doing? How should I understand this country, and what should I do with it? And that's where the story works out from there, with Joel considering things like the debt and considering things like the political dynamics of people being willing to cut taxes without being willing to cut spending, and trying to make a recommendation for how to lead out of this situation.
And when people close the book after they've finished your book, what thought or message do you want them to take away?
So I hope they take away one that is definitely within reach, which is that a good society is built from the ground up, and only small things are good. And the first thing a person should do as a citizen, as a civic act, is to be present for the people in their lives, to nurture the people in their lives, to reach out and help them when they're weak, and to encourage them when they're strong, and then to reach outward from there as far as they can. And I think that will be the biggest step you can make toward changing this dynamic in our larger country.
So basically what you're saying...
Go ahead.
Basically what you're saying, Micah, is something that I'd adhered to for a long time, is you're asking for the resurgence of people getting involved in their own community.
Yes. See, that's usually the argument for... so there's a thing where in communities that have some kind of collapse, usually the police force ends up trying to handle the fallout in the form of crime or in the form of kids who don't go to school because there's nothing for them in the school. And the police is never in a position to solve the issue. They're just in a position to try to deal with the fallout. And I think that a lot of times your federal government is in the same situation. It's when some community collapses that the federal government tries to move in, and it does a bad job because the federal government isn't good at being in the small places. And the best way to move them back out is to do it well on a ground level in our own communities. And then there's not a need for government like we have now.
Yeah. Okay, but now, is it pie in the sky and wishful thinking to think that we can regress, if you will, back to a smaller government, smaller intrusion, etc., or do you have basic philosophies in this book that might be a roadmap how to get us out of this mess?
So no, I don't have a list of policy recommendations that will reduce the size of government, and I partly because there are some good books already out there that have those, and I don't have a lot to add. But I do want, like I said, I know I'm hammering this a little hard, to remind people that even in an era of big government, there's a lot of room to live a rich life that's local in your community, and the most important thing is not to neglect that while we wait to solve this larger government problem. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
I'm running to so many people who feel like they just can't live a good life right now because there's something broken about the federal government. And that, to me, is a real tragedy, because there is something broken about the federal government, but we still live in a country that lets you live a good life where you are.
You know, though, Micah, I think you and I might agree on this, even though there's a wide age discrepancy here between you and me. I think that one thing that has happened in America, and I want you to elaborate on this a little bit, is that the work ethic and the using the talents that God has given each and every one of us seems to be lacking, because people aren't self-responsible to get up off the couch and go make something of themselves. I think that's a major problem.
It probably is, and this is the thing. I work with a set of really driven people, so I probably don't see the problem you're describing day to day. But I know it's out there, and it is just critically important that it's important for each of our lives that we go to work with the pieces that are available to us and make the absolute best of them.
Absolutely.
And like I said earlier, I think when we do that, the big problems don't go away, but they get smaller.
I agree. But it takes self-responsibility and self-motivation to see things on a positive instead of a negative note, right?
It does, and it takes mentoring people who don't have it yet and haven't seen what it looks like.
You know, there is a discrepancy in our ages, but all of a sudden I feel like we're a lot closer in our philosophy and our thought. And I really wish you a lot of success with this book, Only Small Things Are Good, by Micah Harris. Now, tell my audience where they can find the book.
The easiest place to find it is on my website, which is micahharris.com. That's MICAHHARRIS.com. You can also find it on Amazon or Barnes & Noble by searching Only Small Things Are Good.
Okay, and what about future books? Have you got another concept and another idea, or are you going to sit back and rest on your laurels for a while?
Well, it's probably a little bit like asking a mother in the hospital if she's going to have another baby. But I hope to have another book out sometime in the future. In fact, I have another one written that I would love to publish. It's a very good story, but that's another conversation for another time. I appreciate you asking.
You know, it's really interesting, though, and I'll say this as a side note, that I am in the process of finishing my book about my life and about happenstances, etc., in my life. And as a new author, what was the biggest pitfall or den of snakes that you encountered while you were trying to finish this book?
Well, there are several, and I'll probably list the biggest one is one of the biggest things that can hurt you is a need for absolute perfection, and that's the thing that stops so many authors from actually completing a book. The thing is, you can complete a book and then you can revise it, and it's such a sense of accomplishment once you have a book written, and it's so much easier to go back and revise it than it is to get it perfectly the first time. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. I think you've just hit right on the head the big problem that I had. Everybody will say, well, what about this? What about that? Maybe you should have said that. Maybe you shouldn't have used that certain word. But wait a minute. I want to get my thought out first and then worry about the aftermath of correction.
That's what you do with an editor, yeah.
You are a great young man, and I appreciate your coming on the program, and I certainly hope you won't make yourself a stranger, and we wish you a lot of luck with the book, Only Small Things Are Good. Micah Harris, thanks for being on the program this morning.
Thank you for having me on, Zeb.
You betcha. Thank you, sir. Have a great day. Thank you.
You too.
A very interesting young man, as he said, he's in the latter stages of being a millennial, and I appreciate him coming on the program. Very straightforward, and the book is called Only Small Things Are Good by Micah Harris, and I wish him luck. I really do. Don't forget, on Thursdays, we have another segment on our program called Cassia County School Days, and I really, really am appreciative of two businesses that have been the main sponsor of that program since its inception, and they are A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley. You know, when you talk about the clothes, and you talk about the coats, and you talk about ladies' dresses, and you talk about the toys and the baby furniture, oh my goodness, it's all there. It's all there for you at A Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley. And the other sponsor, Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland in Burley for your outpatient surgeries like life-saving colonoscopies, hand surgeries, knee arthroscopic surgeries, cataract surgeries, and much more. And they're trying to save you money. All you need to do is give them a call at 677-8888. That number again, 677-8888. Ambulatory Surgery Center and A Child's World, bringing you Cassia County School Days on Thursdays at 10:10. Right now, quick reminder, tomorrow morning, Senator Mike Crapo at 9:06, and then at 9:30, the Idaho Legislative Update, sponsored by Handy Truck Lines. Clay Handy and the crew, thank you very much. All of that coming up on tomorrow's program of Zeb at the Ranch. Right now, we're going to send it back over to Wheels for this break. We'll be back in about 3 minutes.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Thank you very much, and welcome back to our last half hour on a snowy Monday out here this morning. And about maybe 2 months ago or so, maybe it was longer, I had a lady on my program, and she was talking about wind energy, and we really had a great discussion about what a waste of money the wind energy program was. And people called and sent letters and just really wanted me to get her back on the air. Well, finally I have. Here she is, the executive director of Wind Action, and I know I'm going to mispronounce her last name as I did the first time she was on the program. Lisa Linos, how are you this morning?
Hi, Zev. I'm fine. Thanks so much for having me.
Now, correct me.
That's my last name exactly right.
I did. Well, give me a gold star on the wall today. Thank you very much. Lisa, the last time you were on the air, you were exceptional in explaining everything to my audience, my public, about the extreme cost and waste of money on wind energy. Where are we from that last conversation to today?
That's a great question. At the time when we were speaking, we were waiting on what would happen on the tax bill that was going through the Congress. And unfortunately, things didn't go quite as we were hoping, and the Congress did largely endorse the continuation of the policies that were supporting wind energy in the final tax bill. So not much has changed. A little bit has changed. And I could talk to you a little bit about that. I guess to be very arcane, but the bottom line is we're still looking at billions and billions of dollars being poured into wind energy over the next 10 years.
Okay.
It's going to continue to receive its subsidies, and the wind industry is pushing very hard to put as many wind turbines up as they can in the country.
Lisa, I do not understand this, and pardon my naivete or my ignorance on this, but why won't senators and congressmen understand the absolute, and it is, waste of money, not only in the resurrection or erection of these wind turbines, but the way that it's being heavy-handed to make Idaho Power, for instance, buy that power. It's not subsidizing itself. It's not paying for itself. And we, the taxpayers, are getting bled financially.
You're absolutely right. And in the situation that we were dealing with the tax bill, the House had voted in a version of the tax bill that would have greatly eliminated or reduced the effect of the tax credits for wind. And Kevin Brady, Representative Brady from Texas, who had been really heading up the process in the House, was very much for that. And he comes from a state like Texas, which has upwards of between 22 and 23,000 megawatts of wind. It is by far the most wind than any state in the country. But when the Senate, when they ultimately went into a conference committee, we can point the finger at Senator Grassley of Iowa, Senator Thune of South Dakota, and in some respects, Senator Murkowski from Alaska. They really did push hard, and as you know, Grassley lives and breathes wind energy. It's hard to know how much his money from the wind industry has poured into his campaigns over the years. Thune, surprisingly, supports it when, many people in South Dakota are fighting hard to stop wind turbines in their state. But that's where we stand. And so it really came down to a very small number of people in the Senate that pushed this.
Yeah, we're talking not little millions. We're talking billions with a B. Now, correct me again if I say anything wrong. You have the knowledge on this subject far more than I do, but $5 billion with a B a year. A year is coming out of my billfold, your purse, etc., to fund something that right now I don't see any way it can pay for itself. Am I wrong?
You are absolutely correct. Wind energy, as an intermittent resource, is not capable of producing enough electricity during the course of the year. That is because it only can generate electricity when the wind is blowing. So when you have a product that produces 30% of the time, 35% of the time, you're not getting paid for those other times that you're not putting electricity on the grid. Consequently, wind can't make enough money by just selling its energy, and that not enough money to cover its capital costs, not enough money for building the project, and not enough money to make a profit. So it is, in my experience, and the industry has argued going on 20 years now, that at one time, eventually, it's going to be able to support itself. That has not been the case. Well, and we have no reason to believe after 20-plus years of subsidies that this industry is going to operate on its own without public handouts.
In the last half hour, Lisa, I had a gentleman on that was an older millennial that was absolutely looking at ways to cut the wastage and the money spent in Washington, D.C. Right here is a glaring example. It's like buying an Edsel at a car lot. It ain't going to run, they don't make them anymore, and it's a waste of money. Why can't they understand this?
Such a great question. And we sit here, we watch as Congress, day after day, when this comes up, and it is this the tax reform. We actually got to it in a big way in December. But tax reform, this particular tax credit, and the subsidies that are coming from the federal government, has been up for debate multiple times in the last 8 years, I'd say. And every single time, the representatives stand up and say, we have to do something about this. And every single time, at the last minute, I kid you not, it comes in at the last minute, the industry has been able to convince enough people, and again, usually the senators, to save their hide. And it's become a huge frustration point. And what we're seeing also, but I think that this is is easing up a little bit. We've seen the states step in. So whenever the subsidies have been threatened at the federal level, the states have come in and said, "Well, we want to be 100% renewable." Let's, and I don't, we won't see that necessarily from, some of the red states, but in a state like Idaho, which is largely renewable because of your huge hydroelectric input from the Pacific Northwest. So it's to push wind in a state like Idaho is silly, and I say the same thing about Washington State and Oregon, but there you go. In the really blue states like Washington and Oregon, you'll see it.
Well, why can't, Lisa...
It's not good enough.
I guess this is pie in the sky on my part, Lisa, but why can't that system or that company, if you will, wind energy, why can't be a private enterprise to either fall flat on its face or to stand tall on its own merits? Why should we, the taxpayers, have to subsidize it to the tune of billions and billions of dollars, and it keeps going in the red?
Well, that's a really good question. And part of it, and I know I continually point to the wind industry itself, and have we reached a point where it's too big to fail? I personally don't think that's the case. I think that this is America, right? We are companies come, companies go. You have the opportunity to do very well. You do it on your own dime, and your own hard work. What has happened also with the wind industry, and the federal government is largely to blame for this. The mechanism for funding or getting subsidies to the wind industry has been through tax credits, and we have so these dollars that you're talking about, our public dollars, are going to the wind industry. Well, who's really in play here? The bottom line is people that have huge tax burdens, the tax fund, the hedge funds, the large New York banks, the very big investors. It's these entities that are trying to lower their tax burden to the federal government. They're the ones that are truly taking advantage of the tax credit. So how does it work? I'm a wind company. I want to build a project. I can take advantage of tax credits. This is what the government has given me. I sell those tax credits to a big bank investor on Wall Street, and he lowers his tax burden, say next to nothing, while I get the money to build my project. So it's not, so there, who's benefiting? Well, the wind guy gets his money, and from the tax investor, the equity investor, the Wall Street guy lowers his tax burden, and everyone's happy. And who's really footing the bill? You and I.
Yeah.
Are footing that bill.
Oh, when you've...
It's the power of Wall Street that's playing into this as well.
Oh, my goodness. Let me ask you this, though. I thought, honestly, a lot of common sense with the Trump administration would come into prevalence. I thought that we would see him and members of his administration look at the wind energy program and the solar energy programs and say, wait a minute, you're not carrying the bucket of water for yourself. You're making everybody bring the water to you financially with the taxpayers. I thought that we'd see severe cutbacks. What is it? Is it some kind of a mafia hold on these people that they're afraid to buck the system and get rid of it?
That's a great question. I think in the greater scheme of things, the wind industry is, and Trump was very much pushing for, and he continues to push for mainstreaming back some of the fossil fuels. At least taking some of the taint that the Obama administration put on fossil fuels, and remove that and get us back into focusing on reliable energy resources. But in the end, it was too big a lift. I mean, these renewables have been out there for a long time. They argue, despite the fact that it's multinational corporations and representative of a multi-billion-dollar industry, they still cry the tiny. We're the little guy. How can you pick on us? We're too small, and look, go after their bigger fish to fry in this. And in some respects, that's what's going on. There were other things that he was looking to accomplish, and this piece too little in the long run, I guess, to fight it.
When I drive,
but it could have been done, and just by doing the right thing, the wind industry should be doing its own heavy lifting. And
absolutely. When I drive from here to Boise, from my place to Boise, I am sickened, and I don't care who's offended by this, I am sickened by those cancers on the landscape, and that's what I call the wind towers. And now they want to put up more. You would think that the environmental movement in this country, that are so holy and say they've got to have everything so pristine, why aren't they fighting all these cancers on the landscape?
That is a question that we have really struggled with. The environmental movement for a long time, I mean, really for as long as I've been around, had really been a force in trying to preserve habitat, protect wildlife, and the idea of building these power plants that span square miles, tens of square miles, 20,000 acres and many miles. Of towers that are now no longer just 300 feet tall, which is how tall they were when I started in this debate back in the early 2004, 2005 time frame. They're now 600 feet tall.
Wow.
Massive blades. There's nothing could get past these blades, and yet they still, there's like this old guard of environmentalists that, hydroelectric is bad and they'll never go back. They'll never accept hydroelectric. That was the calling. That was what they argued against back. And now it's like anything to reduce our carbon emissions, and wind is the way to go. And there's no reasoning with them. It's now about climate change. And whatever we can do to reduce our carbon emissions, this is the perspective of the environmentalists, but we can never build more hydro. Hydro's off the table.
Oh, my.
And the only utility-scale generation we can build is wind, so, we'll build wind because it gets us closer to reducing our carbon emissions. That's the thinking now, and no matter how many birds, bats, wildlife are killed or displaced, they will be further hurt by climate change.
Oh, my goodness.
That's the balance they're looking at. It's better to destroy them today. You have to destroy the planet to save the planet. And that's the mentality that comes up repeatedly.
The idiocy and incompetency of this industry, it just makes me just furious. But the other thing that bothers me, and I'd like you to elaborate on a little bit, is how in the world did they, the wind energy mafia, get a hold of people like our Idaho Power and twist their arm into forcing them to buy power that is absolutely more expensive and not at all dependable?
That is a good question, and that we are a little bit hopeful will change in the coming year at least. And that's tied to a bill called PURPA, which I can't remember what the acronym stands for, but to give it was enacted initially. It's PURPA for anyone who wants to look it up. Enacted initially in 1978, so under the Carter administration. Its purpose in life was to make sure that utilities did not cut out renewables and the small generators who wanted to build it. If they wanted to build a power plant and get their power to market, the only way at that time to get power to market was through the utilities because they owned distribution of electricity. And so PURPA put in place and mandated that the utilities buy electricity from these small plants. Small plants at the time were under 80 megawatts. And so that's what the wind guys come in. They own the power at that point. They own control at that point because federal law is mandating the utilities buy this power and put it to market. And what they're doing in places like Idaho, places like Wyoming, those that are subject to PURPA in particular, is they're building these massive wind projects, 300, 400 megawatts. They're breaking them up into little pieces, like 10 megawatts here, 10 megawatts here. So you'll have a 300 megawatt project broken up into 30, 10 megawatt size so that they fit this this size, this very small size that was originally mandated as part of federal law, and also some state law, and they pretend that they're subject to PURPA. My 300 megawatt project is really a lot of small renewable projects, and because I fit the definition, as my wind project now fits the definition of this small projects, you have to buy my power.
Oh my!
And that's what's going on. So that law, when you think about a law that's been in effect for since 1978, so much has changed. The entire industry for buying and selling electricity is nothing like it was in 1978. Yet we're subject to this bill, and so now finally Congress is looking at it and reworking it.
Okay.
The wind guys don't like it. I can tell you that. They do not like it.
I've only got about 3.5 minutes left, Lisa, and I don't mean to be rude and hurry you along, but I got to get this in. When you've had a face-to-face contact and talked to senators and congressmen, I'm just going to be blunt. Are they this dumb, or are they having their arms twisted financially to support this mess?
It's a little bit of both, to be honest with you. But I will have to tell you, more times than not, we have encountered legislators that simply have no idea. The wind industry has a very powerful marketing arm, and they've surrounded themselves with the environmentalists who say wind is good, everything else is bad. And no one wants to be on the opposite side of public opinion. And so the legislators, it's very easy for them to say, oh, I'm clean, I'm green, I'm all for this stuff, and look, my state wants it. They have to hear more from the rest of us, and somehow our voices are not getting through. It's getting better, but we haven't been able to get through in the same way. So it's really the ignorance and fear of being on the opposite side of what the wind industry has defined as popular public opinion that has hurt us.
Now, when you say these senators and congressmen, tell me and my audience, we had a little burp on the phone there just a minute ago while you were finishing that last phrase, but what can we do? How can we inform them as to what their paying taxpayer constituents want or don't want? I am sick and tired of this steamroller attitude back in D.C. Well, we're just going to vote for it, and they don't even come to us, the constituents. I want to see the total demise of wind and solar power. I think it's a waste of time, effort, money, and the environment.
Well, the best thing to do is to inform the legislators. And unfortunately, you end up having to go to states that are not your own. So here in my state of New Hampshire, we clearly have senators that are pro-wind. Across the board, solar, they're very, very left of center. And I try to get through to them, and it's not always effective, but keep pounding. If you have to call different state senators to get the message across, they need to understand that we are not interested in having our landscape destroyed by these turbines. And where there aren't turbines, there's transmission crisscrossing the landscape to deliver the energy where there was no need for transmission before that. So getting that point across, photographs of what's happening and the impacts on communities, they need to understand it, and eventually if they hear it enough, they will get it. Someone like Senator Thune, I don't understand where he's at because he knows the people in South Dakota don't want the wind. But he needs to hear it more and more.
Absolutely.
And, eventually they'll get it. At this point, I'm not sure anyone's going to change anything. The wind industry may go back in and try to change the tax bill to make it even more favorable to them. But I think that it's more going to be. It will be perhaps be more at the state level now to stop so much development in individual states. But keep talking about it is the biggest message that we could get out there.
I appreciate you being on the program, and believe me, I'm not afraid if I step on their toes. Thank you, Lisa Linos, for being on our program. God bless you, and please know I'm not going to lose your number this time. I'm going to keep it because I want you to come back in the future. Thank you so much for being on the program.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you very, very much. Great lady, very smart lady, and I appreciate her remarks. Wind energy and solar energy, a public tax-paying mess. Oh, we got to have a weather forecast on right now, brought to you by Scarrows Meats. Don Scarrow and the crew at 331 North Road, Jerome. Number to call, 324-7657. Or you can go to their website, scarrowsmeats.com, and see all the delicious meats, from the bratwurst and the breakfast sausage and the bacons and the prime ribs. Oh, it's delicious. Delicious. And I urge you to give them a call and stop in today. Scarrows Meats in Jerome. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
First day of the work week, and we are in a winter weather advisory. Good Monday morning. Here is your weather forecast for us up at the ranch. We are expecting about an 80% chance of snow showers. That's supposed to be kicking off at about 8 o'clock this morning. This winter weather advisory is in effect till about 11 o'clock this morning. Snow before 2 is what they're calling for. Then a chance of rain or snow later on this afternoon and this evening. High of 37. Winds out of the south 10 to 18 miles an hour. Gusts possible as high as 24 miles an hour. Total daytime snow accumulations of less than 1 inch possible. For tonight, mostly cloudy skies. Low of about 26. Still going to be a little bit breezy out there. For tomorrow, partly sunny skies. High of 40. Mostly cloudy and 29 for tomorrow night. By Wednesday, partly sunny skies with a high of 43. However, for Wednesday night, we do have a slight chance of rain or snow showers in the forecast before midnight and then clearing out after midnight. That is your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Great job, Gina. Thank you very much. Scarrows Meats, the sponsor of our weather this hour. And thank you very much, Don Scarrow and the crew at 331 North Road, Jerome. They are changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. Well, you got a lot of hum on the line. Wheels, are we still coming through all right? I've heard all kinds of weird noises in the last half hour, like beep, 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 and all this other stuff. Everything okay?
Yeah, everything's fine. You're still on the air, and you sound great.
That's the only... That's the only thing I'm worried about, is still being on the air. Thank you, Wheels. I appreciate it. I got one quick ad I've got to get in, and it's the most important. And that's, of course, from our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. I keep saying that their slogan is so true. Doing the right thing matters. And believe me, they want to serve you with the best of tires, traction tires for wintertime driving, to get through the snow, the ice, the muck, the yuck. And right now, good example, it's snowing out there. I got quite a bit on the ground over here. Drive carefully and drive confidently with the tires that they have waiting for you on your car, pickup, SUV, etc. They've got all the tire chains. They've got, of course, the front end alignment, shocks and struts, the best in brake service, batteries. It's all there at all 7 locations. These people are good, and doing the right thing matters at all the Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Lane in Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike in Buell, Mike in Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Big day tomorrow, Tuesday. Lots of good people on the air, including United States Senator Mike Crapo, and, of course, our legislative update, sponsored by Handy Truck Lines. Much, much more. See you tomorrow morning at 8:06, Zeb at the Ranch. And remember, the way things were are the way things ought to be.